Rajesh was originally born in Bhutan. It is one of the sandwich country between India and China. And in 1990, the government of Bhutan evicted more than 100,000 Bhutanese citizens in the name of ethnic cleansing. So Rajesh came in the refugee camp. He spent almost 19 years in refugee camp. He went to India to study for a couple of years. He completed his master's degree from India. And in 2009, he came to United States.
In the year 2009, through third country resettlement program, I came to United States. At first I came to California. Then later, I married a girl from New Hampshire and decided to move to New Hampshire. And since 2011, I'm here at New Hampshire, Concord, New Hampshire. It was beginning, of the resettlement process, and I came to California. It was a bit challenging and tough because the system was new to me. Almost all, everything was new to me at that time. So it took a while to get settled down, I came through one of the agencies named International Organization for Migration, There were a few people who helped me through International Rescue Committee or something like that. They helped me at the initial stage to find the apartments and all. And, during that time it was tough and challenging because that time, back in the year 2009, it was hit by the recession first of all. And we used to carry, the resume in the bag and go to the every store. They used to say, we are not hiring, we are firing right now, And it was really tough because the country was new to me that time, and the food we eat, the culture, the people, the language, everything was new. So it was challenging, but we work hard.
Since he came to this new country, he started working for the Bhutanese community. He worked very hard for the community. Since 2011, he started working particularly with the Bhutanese community of New Hampshire, one of the non-profit organizations in the state. His job was more of like helping people to enroll in job.
My experience, that's what I'm using nowadays because that was really a challenging time, in the beginning, and I struggle a lot. So what I think is that people also face the same challenges when they come over here. So my dad, back to the country, he was a social worker too. So I learned from him, and right now what I'm doing is that I'm helping people because people need only help when they need. If they can do, they can find themselves. But I work for Bhutanese community of New Hampshire as an employment coordinator. So I do not only help people for the job placement, I do help for the case management and all.
He reached out to the people in their home, meet with individuals, help them to get the job done, help them to prepare their resume, cover letter, help them for transportation, interpretations. And since 2013-14, he started volunteering in Hamro Awaaz television show, which is only the one Nepali show from New Hampshire.
I, on behalf of Bhutanese community of New Hampshire, would like to thank ConcordTV for providing us this opportunity to run Hamro Awaaz program, which is one of the most popular program right now. That is Nepali show. Hamro Awaaz means our voice. So we could reach our voice through Concord television through the different countries. Until now, we had recorded around 38 episodes, and we are still working hard to give the best to the people.
He's been very active. He's very willing to work with the community, with all level of people, with the young people, with the elder people, with the youths, and with everybody. So he's very much capable in helping the people. He's really doing a outstanding work for the community. So I have never saw him with any frustrations or things like, he's sad. Every time I see him, even he have like things going on, a lot of busy schedule, he's just smiling, talking, giving time to friends and family. So this is something I really like about Rajesh.
I help people at any time, and I always give my personal cell phone to the people who I help, because they need help at any time. So I don't care, whether it's at morning, whether it's at weekend, whether it's at night, I just pick up the call just to help them because I want to see the smile on their face, from our small help. They'll change their life.
Well, my life in Concord began in 1969. I had entered New Hampshire in 1962 as an immigrant. My hometown is Montreal. And so I lived in the northern part of the state first and was a teacher at the Whitefield School, which was a K through 12. I also had the opportunity while living in the North Country to be the first Head Start teacher and the first kindergarten teacher at Whitefield School. I left the North Country and then went to Salem, where I was offered a position to be the director of a private school. And I held that position for 2 years and then was invited to come to Concord to serve in state government as a consultant to the Title I office in the Division of Instruction in the New Hampshire Department of Education. And that was 1969, July 1, 1969, I began my job. And in September 1969, I moved my family to Concord. And my connection has deepened over the years, and Concord is now my home. Although they say in New Hampshire, if you're not born here, you're never a native, but it is my chosen home, and I think I made an excellent choice. I worked in state government for most of my years, and both in the Department of Education, but then I left briefly to join the Academy of Applied Science, which was one of the organizations that started the Law Center when it was known as the Franklin Pierce Law Center. And then I went back to state government and started the Department of Early Childhood at the New Hampshire Community College, NHGI, Concord's Community College. It changed its name after I left. I had always been involved in committees debating issues relative to children and families. And so I guess it was in 1996, the person who represented our ward, which was Ward 3 at the time, was resigning because she had 2 little children and didn't feel she could meet the demands of working in the legislature. So she asked if I might be interested in running for the legislature. I approached the president of NHGI, and at that time I was department chair of the early childhood program. But I had been there for 8 years. It was a good department. I had great faculty. We were doing and growing and all of the things that you measure a successful department by. I told him what had happened, and he said, well, do you want to do it? And I said, well, I'd be interested in running. There's no guarantee that I'm going to win because I was running against an incumbent at the time. My husband, who had been in the legislature years before, said, if you want to get elected, you have to do retail politicking. You have to go door to door. And I said, oh, that sounds so silly. You know, I'm really not interested in doing door to door. But then one September, he said, it's a beautiful day, you know, this would be a good day to start. So I thought, well, I'll start on my own street. And I left about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I came back at 4. And my husband, Bob, said, well, how far did you go? And I said, well, I did the 3 houses on Lower Pennacook Street. And he said, only 3? And I said, well, it was so interesting getting to know my neighbors. I've been in the legislature now for 18 years. I spent 12 years on Children and Family Law Committee, which was very interesting. I served 4 years as chair of that committee. And then I was asked to move on to education as the minority policy leader in the year 2010. There was a big shift in the majority party at that time. Concord is in a very mini version with a population of just under 40,000. It is growing in a way. We have new Americans coming into our community. We have, it is growing in diversity, and it is certainly growing, when I say diversity, ethnically diverse as well as economically diverse. And I would hope that would continue. I would hope that the emphasis on the arts would continue, because I think those are the activities and the programs that enrich our lives.
Well, I'm Frank Wilner, and live here in Concord. Have been here most of my life. I'm with the WNHN radio station here in Concord. Have been since 2012. Prior to that, I was with WKXL for total of 10 years. So actually, I was with KXL until earlier this year when I stopped producing new shows. KXL. Well, kind of an interesting story as to how I got into jazz. You know, I grew up as a lover of music and you know the pop music in the 50s. Patti Page, Eddie Fisher, the Four Lads, the Four Aces, and Elvis was just coming onto the scene, along with Chuck Berry. So I was into the popular music of the day. And my freshman year at BU, there was an orientation at Camp Sargent, Peterborough, and it's a true story. At the orientation, I got into a poker game with these guys, and you know, nickel, dime, quarter, nothing, no big deal. But I met a fellow in the poker game, Charlie Manuel, who we became really good friends, and he asked me what kind of music I was listening to, and I said, well, I'm into pop stuff, and he's, that's, you know, you got to get into jazz. I said, jazz? I don't know anything about it. So he started inviting me to his house in Beverly, Mass, and he had all these great jazz albums, Verve recordings of the great artists back then. And he introduced me to the music, and ever since then I've been a huge jazz fan. It was actually 1956 when I started listening to jazz and buying albums, LPs, and all the great Blue Note artists that recorded for that label. I retired in '07 from the VA in Manchester, and my barber, Bob Gifford, said that they were looking for someone to do a jazz show at KXL. And you know, like most things, I just sort of put it off, and you know, then my wife got after me. She says, "Why don't you go up to KXL and talk to him up there about it?" So one day I just happened to venture to KXL, and Gordon Humphrey, who owns the station, happened to be there that particular day. He's not there very often, and that particular day he happened to be there just when I walked in, and you know, he said, you're into jazz? I said, yeah. So what do you know about jazz? So he talked to me for about a half an hour, and you know, I told him that I had a very large, sizable jazz collection and was into the music, and after talking with me for half an hour or so, he said, well, let's give it a shot, and that's kind of how it started. So that was in 2007, and so here we are 10 years later, and you know, and actually, even though I left KXL in early January, they still play my shows. Frankly Jazz runs every night, all night, from 9:05 or so till 5:30 in the morning. And then I learned about WNHN, that they're a jazz station, or at least part of what they do is jazz and blues and so forth. So I got in touch with them. It was 2012, and so since that time, I've been doing a show called Voices in Jazz, which is on every day, Monday through Friday from 2 to 3. So that's, and it's an all vocal jazz show. So it's a little bit different than what I was doing with KXL. I was shopping at Market Basket, and this lady, because KXL used to run ads for my show, and they were in there 2 or 3 times a week for the longest period of time. And I'm doing my shopping at Market Basket, and this older woman stops me, and she says, "Hey," she says, "you're Frank from the, you know, KXL doing the jazz show." And I said, "Well, how do you know that?" She said, "Well, I recognize you." She's from the, you know. So that was, you know, and I've had some people come up to me, and you know, at different times, if I'm in my car or wherever, you know, and talk to me about, you know, I know your show, I listen to your show, and so forth. So it's kind of neat. I worked with ex-POWs, prisoners of war. So I interviewed like over 200 ex-prisoners of war at the VA and did their histories and so forth. And then also we had a monthly group which ran, I'm trying to remember when it started. I think it was 1988, I believe. So for about 20 years, I ran this group that consisted of ex-POWs and their wives and so forth. So And that was fascinating to kind of deal with those guys.
My name's John Simakowski. My nickname is Simo.
I first met John when I was probably 12 years old at Camp Andrews. I was brought there to do some cleanup, and this young teenager, and I was just a little kid. He comes out of the kitchen, I believe, and started talking basketball, and he didn't shut up.
Yeah, I remember playing against Glenn. I was older than Glenn, so we never played against each other competitively, just like at the boys' club at the park or something like that.
And he was on me about basketball, so he wanted to play a little one-on-one, and I was like, who's this little guy?
He was a beast, but you know, being a little older, you had old school tricks, and I hope he learned a lot of them.
So I took him on one-on-one, and he took it to me. And I actually owe him some credit to pushing me to play basketball, because I said I'd never be beat like that again, because he put a beating on me. John he grew up in Concord, went to the schools in Concord, went to Concord High, graduated in 1981, went on to 4 years in the Coast Guard. He's always been involved in the Boys and Girls Club. That's where I kind of got to know him a little bit better from his days at the Boys. I mean, he participated in everything as a kid.
Growing up to the Boys and Girls Club, or the Boys Club back then, I got to meet a lot of these kids, and people older than me, from Tom Hardiman to Hap Simpson, Mike Mounsey, you know, those were all mentors. And then everybody that works at the Boys and Girls Club, they don't realize it, every counselor there. And you're talking Girls Inc., just about anywhere you go, if you're an authority figure, you've got some kid looking up to you, and that's the biggest thing in the world. I mean, I've always kept that with me. Well, again, it's a Boys and Girls Club TV auction, and it's every winter, just before Christmas, right after Thanksgiving. And, you know, I was there for the very first auction we ever had. You had Continental Cable, you had all these other different names before it was ConcordTV. So we've done it at, you know, a place called Star Hot Dog down on Pleasant Street, and we've done it at the Downtown Athletic Club, we've done it at the Community Center, we did it at Continental Cable down at Horseshoe Pond. So all those years I worked it. Even as a young kid when it first started, we had 3 flights of stairs. We had to bring every auction item up those stairs on Pleasant Street and back down. And then we delivered items. So as soon as someone got an item, we jumped in the van, and we had a load of stuff, and like 4 kids would get in the van with a couple of adults, and we would run to houses and collect the money and give them their gifts. So it was kind of a neat thing. And so over the years, I stayed in touch, and I wasn't active in every auction, although I was, except for when I was in the service. I probably watched every auction there was and bid a lot of money. And then Bill Wiley, who ran the pledge board for years, kind of stepped down, and they had different people. And the director of the club and I had talked, and we said, we've got to build this thing up. And how do we do it? And it's just getting the alumni back, getting the community back.
For the last 10 years, he's run the pledge board. He's raised thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
You know, I watch public TV auction every year just to steal ideas. And you're not going to find many auctions on TV, so this is kind of a passion of mine.
One of the cool things he does with his South End Deli is he provides box lunch for all the school athletic teams.
Say a sports team is traveling on an away game, at the beginning of the season we team up with them, and every kid will fill out a form with a sandwich made to order, a sport drink, a cookie, bag of chips, and the parent or a booster parent or coach or an athletic director, somebody will come to the store before the game, and we'll load up 2 coolers with this drinks, sandwiches, and everything.
Pay a small amount, and the kids get a good meal prior to games or after the games for the high school and the junior high programs. I mean, it's just absolutely fantastic.
And I watch a lot of the sports. I go to basketball games and football games. We do a program with lunch boxes and stuff, and I try to get as many teams in whether it's field hockey or soccer or lacrosse, ice hockey. So you'll see me doing that, and then if I really get some free time, I've got a motorcycle, and sadly enough this summer I didn't, but you know, if I can get over to the coast once or twice, or up to the White Mountains, or motorcycle weekend or something, that's what I enjoy. And just, you know, youth sports, I really, you know, like watching that. I like to give back. I want to give back. I remember my youth, people giving to us, you know, even though we were in a middle-class family, both parents worked, but you still saw when people were giving back, you still saw when a kid didn't have much, or have much, you know, and somebody giving to them, or, you know, letting them go first, or giving them the extra cookie or the extra piece of candy at Halloween, and you didn't realize why until, you know, you got older, but maybe they needed it more than you.
My name is Ryan Linehan. I'm the Managing Director of the Kimball Jenkins Estate and Kimball Jenkins School of Art. I've been there for going on 12 years, and it's really become part of my life and what I do. The Kimball Jenkins has had its share of ups and downs, and we've been able to keep it going. You know, I'm not going to take full credit for that. I've had a lot of help throughout the way. I've had a couple of fantastic trustees. I've had some great employees, and something that's often overlooked is our students themselves. They work really hard. They really love the estate. They love the school, and that's a big part of it. And one of the things that we always try to do is keep the estate open to the community. So quite often a lot of other nonprofits will use it, use the rental side of it, the carriage house or the mansion for their functions. I've been able to, through the Haley Ray Martin Scholarship Fund, do a community mural downtown, and we did that last year. It was the first year, and it was so successful we're going to be doing it again. It is going to be an annual thing. The funding for it has been amazing. We actually got a large donation from the NFL, which was kind of surprising, but we'll take it. And they're actually funding this year's mural, as well as the Haley Ray Martin family. But you'll see that, it's the big mural down next to CVS downtown. We have a fantastic summer program that we've really worked hard to build. It's a safe, fun and educational place for children to go during the summer. And we do really emphasize the art education portion of it. It's not just throwing paint. There's an art history component, and the idea is that they're having too much fun to realize that they're learning. But they really do. I've had a lot of parents will visit museums afterwards, after their kids came to a week of camp, and their kids are telling them all about the paintings on the wall, which is exactly what we're trying to do. It's a big property to maintain. We're almost 4 acres in downtown Concord with 4 separate buildings. And one of the things that we do is weddings and private functions, and we try to keep that still fairly affordable for people. And this year was the first year that we had somebody that started off in summer camp about 13 years ago. She started in summer camp. She actually got married there. So, it's become part of her life, part of her growing up. Most of my faculty started off in summer camp, and they're now college students. So it's a place for people to grow. I originally grew up in Salem, and then I took off for Alaska and lived there for about 5 years, and ended up coming back to get another degree, and ended up in Concord. And Kimball Jenkins was supposed to be a short-term job. I wasn't planning on staying there, and then stuff happened, and I ended up taking it on full-time. A lot of the public events, particularly the free events, are just so much fun to watch. You know, with all the, like, we do a extravaganza, big egg hunt, and you know, you have 100 kids running around having a blast. And you know, one thing that really sticks with me is all the students that start there really young, and a lot of them are at risk, don't have the best home life. But Kimball Jenkins makes a huge difference in their life. They stick with it, and you know, they eventually go to college and do well. Kimball Jenkins, the art program, and the community there really gives them confidence and support, and that's amazing to see. If you haven't been there, stop by. We just were in the middle of some capital improvements. You'll see when you drive by that the yellow house is getting restored. It's been an enormous undertaking, and we're about 85% there. We'll be done by winter, hopefully. Hope that the snow holds off. Still a lot more to do. The mansion just had the floors refinished, which are absolutely beautiful quarter-stone oak floors that were done. And people are welcome to come in and wander around, check out the mansion. The attic is the coolest place in Concord, and people can come in and just kind of wander, check it out for themselves. And I do notice I get more people from out of town that take me up on that offer than local Concord residents. But people can definitely just stop by.
My name is Paul Brogan, and I nominated my mother, Clara Brogan, because she is an inspiration to everybody that I know, and she certainly is someone that others look to when they find themselves wondering what direction they should take with their life. She has filled her life as long as I can remember, which is 60+ years, with every sort of activity. She has taught school, music at a number of schools in the area. She was involved with community theater for over 50 years, both on stage and behind the scenes, as well as directing. She's a Eucharistic minister, she's in Songweavers, she's in the Stratford Club. She doesn't slow down, and I think that that spirit and energy that she gives and exudes in such an abundance makes everybody who comes in contact with her and everyone around her, family, friends, and casual acquaintances, feel better for the experience. So I felt that she was someone who is a role model not only for those of us who have known her for so many years, but could be a role model for those who are out there seeking their own place in life.
My name is Clara Brogan, and I am here today to tell you how honored I am that my son would nominate me as a fascinating person. It does make a mother's heart beat a little faster. I have been in this building and part of Concord High School for a long time. And it's an honor, again, to be back and doing something for them. I enjoy my activities and have for a long time. I have been a piano teacher from the age of 12 when I taught the neighborhood children to the current age, which is pretty close to 93. But I don't think of age so much as I think of the wonderful time that I've had as part of this wonderful life. I was part of the Concord Community Players for a number of years as a quote-unquote actress, backstage, on stage, directing. It was people being with people that wanted to do something, and it was interesting. I've been a part of the music schools, song weavers, for now it's about 28 years. But I said at the 25th anniversary, I think they've seen my face long enough, but I still like to go and sing with them. And I do my church volunteer work. Some volunteer work I've had to give up as time has come by, but that too was a pleasure and a joy and an honor. So I think I've had a very full and eventful life. 2 children, a wonderful husband, and even though I was born in the state of Texas, I now consider myself a New Hampshireite. After all, I've been here a long time, since 1948, and Concord has changed, and so have I, but I had 2 fine children that enjoyed these schools, and I enjoyed teaching in them. I taught out in Pennacook and Boscawen and Webster, and I don't even remember some of the schools, but it was all, I love teaching. I've been a teacher all my life. The piano has been a part of my life, and I made it. As my mother used to say, it was the talent that God gave you. You have to pass it on. And I have tried to pass it on to children. I go twice a month to do storytelling. I don't read, I don't show them the book, I tell them the story. And I have wonderful audiences in those 2nd grade classes that are my special friends. I enjoy that, and they enjoy it. I think that teaching is the top profession next to the doctors, I think, because we touch so many, and it is such a privilege to be a part of the young children's lives. I can walk through other rooms and they'll say, I remember you, and that makes me feel very good, because I did give them something, and they appreciated it if they remember it. It's just wonderful to live on this planet and be able to do what I've done. I've just had a wonderful life, and still having it, I think.